off with a Sports Minute sponsored by WeatherGuard Truck and Van Equipment. They're just as driven as the hardworking pros they serve. The Dodgers Shohei Ohtani threw pitches at batting practice on Sunday. He could be headed back to the mound soon. Meanwhile, he's led off the last 2 games with home runs. He leads the league with 19. He's the best hitter in baseball. Pitching to me feels like a luxury. It will be cool, but it's not necessary for the Dodgers to win. I'm Andrew Perloff.
For more than half a century, contractors and trade professionals have relied on WeatherGuard for heavy-duty truck and van storage equipment, not just to protect their tools, but to protect their professional reputations. Whether it's inside or outside of work vehicles, a WeatherGuard badge means pros can trust that their hard-earned name is in good hands. Since 1968 and every day since, WeatherGuard has been protecting anything it takes to build a professional reputation. WeatherGuard, established in 1968, proven every day. WeatherGuard.com.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/fax or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional.
Nobody covers your Cats like we do. With press conferences, coaches shows, and play-by-play.
It is over. Cats have won it.
We bring you all the stories, highlights, and analysis of your Arizona Wildcats. We are Wildcats Radio 1290.
Cantina nachos, strawberry watermelon margaritas, a few zombie kills, and all your favorite sports teams live. When your day calls for some winning, it's time for Dave & Buster's, where you can eat, drink, play, and watch all the sports you want. They've got massive HD TVs, hundreds of the hottest new games, a chef-crafted menu, and an incredible list of beers, wines, and cocktails. So remember, if your day calls for a little victory, a little triumph, a little win, it's probably calling for Dave & Buster's.
It's Arizona and Cal Poly in the NCAA baseball tournament.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Arizona's champions of the Big 12 baseball tournament.
Brian Jeffries has the call Friday at 12:50 right here on Wildcats Radio 1290.
Get your backyard summer ready with a custom pool from First Choice Pools. A backyard oasis built around you. First Choice is a full-service builder of beautiful in-ground pools and backyard designs for years of staycations. If you want to dive in this summer, now is the time to visit TucsonPoolBuilder.com. First Choice Pools for installs, renovation, remodeling, and repair. Get started today at TucsonPoolBuilder.com. Ask about our 60-day pool. To be summer ready, First Choice is the only choice.
Your home for everything Arizona Wildcats. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290, KCUB Tucson, a Cumulus media station. DK on the sports tip. Wildcats Radio 1290.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Blue to set. Here's the pitch to the plate. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Arizona's champions of the Big 12 baseball tournament. How about that? Back-to-back conference tournament championships for the Arizona Wildcats. They rule the Pac-12, now the Big 12, and the Wildcats are bringing home a trophy from Arlington.
Do you think the light went on for this Arizona baseball team a couple of Thursdays ago? I think it was 2 Thursdays ago now in Houston, Texas, when they absolutely got their ass kicked by the Cougars, 13-4. And at that point, we were wondering, we were like, where's this team going? What's this team all about? They seem to be on a down trend at the wrong time. Well, that seemed to have been a wake-up call for this Arizona baseball team, because they have not lost a game since that butt whooping a couple of Thursdays ago down in Houston. They finished off the Cougars, winning the final 2 games of that series, and then they went into Dallas. I think it's Dallas, somewhere like that in Texas, and they absolutely pitched the lights out of Arlington Globe Life Field. 3 earned runs allowed in 3 games. 3 earned runs allowed in 28 innings. I know I'm old school. That's a 0.96 ERA. I understand that. I may not understand all these different analytics of baseball, but I understand if you go out there and hold a team to 3 earned runs in 28 innings, you're pitching really, really well. I don't need any advanced analytics to tell me that. And only 5 walks. Maybe that's the most impressive thing about that. 3 earned runs, only 5 base on balls in 28 innings. I mean, that's the key to baseball at any sport, but I think it's really the key in college baseball. I remember a game, gosh, it's probably like 5 or 6 years ago now. I think it was before the pandemic, so maybe like 2019. I just remember a game against Arizona was playing Oregon. It was a Sunday afternoon at High Corbett Field, and this Oregon pitcher literally threw like 80 pitches in 2 innings. I mean, it was one of the worst performances I think I've ever seen in my life. He had like 5 or 6 walks. It was like ridiculous. Just could not throw the ball over the plate. If you can throw the ball over the plate, put it in the strike zone with a little movement, man, this game becomes so much easier. Look what happened to the Diamondbacks last night after they got housed in St. Louis over the weekend. You get a guy out there, again, it all starts with pitching, man. All starts with pitching. You get a guy go out there, dominate on the bump, and this game becomes so much easier. And the Rally Cats were back. This team that we saw last year who so many times was able to come from behind and win ball games, man, they did it again in that final against Texas Christian. I mean, our guy, Andrew Kane, out of Ironwood Ridge High School, absolutely coming up huge. I mean, huge. With a home run in the 9th inning to tie the ball game. And then you hand the ball to Tony Pluta, who I think it was the first game against BYU. They gave him 2 innings, and I was like, I don't know if I want to blow my closer out like that, giving him 2 innings, but apparently he's done it now a couple of times. Let's go ahead and look exactly how many 2-inning saves he's had this season. I know Brian mentioned when we talked to him last week, he's had a couple. You generally like to stay away from those, but in that situation, 9th inning now, you tie the game, absolutely. You're giving the ball to Tony Pluta to get you out of that 9th, and then hopefully maybe you can win it in the 10th and you don't have to go deep into your bullpen in an extra inning game. And the Wildcats got that run in the 10th, and then Tony Pluta went out there and closed it down in the bottom of the 10th for another conference tournament championship, the 2nd in a row for your Arizona baseball team. And how about the conference championships for the Arizona Wildcats this spring? Baseball won one. Who else won one? Women's golf. They won a conference tournament championship. Tennis won a conference tournament championship. And these were all teams that did not win. Well, there's no regular season kind of thing in golf per se. But men's tennis did not win the regular season championship, but they won the conference tournament championship. Baseball didn't win the regular season championship, but they won the conference tournament championship. Not bad. Not bad in the least. Now you got to go. Now comes the tough part. Now comes the part where it's kind of gotten a little dicey for Arizona baseball, and that's going out and doing something in this postseason. And I've said it before, my baseline for baseball, I give you my baselines. My baseline for baseball is regional final. You got to get to the regional final. To me, that's a pretty easy baseline. It's probably a little bit lower than it should be for Arizona baseball, but I've talked about it before. They're a program that doesn't necessarily live up to what I believe their expectations should be routinely. So I've kind of kept that baseline. And a lot of times the baseline is determined on how far you get in the postseason. For softball, it's super regionals because that's a team that generally gets to the super regionals every year. They missed that baseline this year. So that's a disappointment. They didn't get to my baseline. Softball didn't. Baseball has that chance. Tennis, men's tennis, they've become a Sweet 16 program because they've gotten there now. What is it? 3 times in the last 4 years. That's become the expectation for men's tennis now. Sweet 16. It's always been the expectation for men's basketball. Sweet 16. Get there, and then everything else we can call successful and gravy after that. For baseball, it's a regional final. That takes 2 wins this weekend in Eugene, Oregon. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. You can call us at that number. You can text us at that number. Want to hear your thoughts about the game, about the weekend in, where were we in Texas? Arlington. That's a big joke, in case you haven't been on the inside joke. I sent out a tweet on Saturday, and I said Houston instead of Arlington or Dallas or whatever. So then the joke became, where the hell are we in Texas?
Yeah, Texas people take that stuff kind of seriously.
Yeah, well, apparently Arizona people do, too. J.W. Madden, as you can hear, joins us on the program. J.W., what did you think of that impressive performance by the Wildcats?
Yeah, I mean, just as we talked so many times last year, DK, I think there were 14 walk-offs last year by the Wildcats baseball team. They just have that never say quit in those big game moments, right? And you mentioned Andrew Kane's home run, but how about that catch he had at the wall, right?
Yeah.
That was in the 7th, I think, and he didn't rob a home run. It was going to be inside the park, but to get on, to get the hustle back there and get his glove on it, that easily could have been multiple bases. They had a couple guys on, so that saved some runs as well. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Eugene, Corvallis as being potential destinations up there in Oregon, so not surprised to see them playing in Eugene. I did look at the history, and the Cats have not had a lot of success up there, mostly obviously versus the Ducks, but in that ballpark, and to begin with, I think they're 1-5
Oh boy.
since they built that place. But you said it. I mean, you go back and look at it. You mentioned the blowout to Houston, but that was their 5th loss in 6 games, right? So it was just a stretch. They lost the series to Utah 2-1. They lost the midweek game versus Grand Canyon coming off the heels of their TCU loss in the final game of that series. It was 63 runs, DK, that they gave up in those 5 losses. And after that, ever since then, 1-1-1-1-1, right? The pitching's come around these last couple of weeks really when they needed it most, and that's what it takes. I mean, those lopsided numbers we saw, even giving up 6 runs to Houston in a win in that second game of that Houston series, the pitching has been solid. I mean, what can you say, DK, when you have a little bit of movement on those fastballs, like you said, make it tough on hitters and understand the tendencies. You see those 4-1 wins versus BYU in the first, only 1 run to West Virginia, and then the championship versus TCU. I think the final was just a great baseball game, all told. I mean, there was a lot of threats. It wasn't your typical 2-1 win in the 10th. There was a lot of opportunities for both teams to score runs, and the defenses turning double plays. TCU had a couple of really nice double plays. Just overall a really good college baseball game.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the big concern for me has been whether or not this pitching has what it takes to go deep. And they showed this weekend what they could do in a tournament setting. If you pitch like that, again, if you pitch like they did this past weekend, this team can get to Omaha. They can get to Omaha with pitching performances like that. They've got the guy at the backhand. That's so critical. Can you get to that guy with a lead or close is always the question. And the starters had kind of been up and down over the course of the last 3-4 weeks. But Owen Kramkowski went out there on Thursday, and he set the tone. And Raul Gararze, he followed it up. You know, they say hand the ball off to the next guy. And then Smith Bailey got it on Saturday, and he was dynamite.
Yeah, Owen Kramkowski, you talked about once he picked up the number 1 spot, DK, maybe has struggled a bit since then. But in that opening game, 6 innings, no runs.
Yeah.
You follow that up with Raul Garzar, who had 6 innings pitched, no runs, DK. When you can get 6 innings from your starter and not get any runs across, I mean, as long as your offense keeps up a little bit, that's what Arizona's seen from their starting pitching. And then, obviously, the back end, Tony Pluta has been basically unhittable. I mean, when was the last time that dude gave up a run? So I think that the key is obviously, as always this time of year, is deep times from your starters get 5-6 innings deep into a game, DK, especially those number 1 and 2s, like we mentioned, then you have a much better chance of making a deep run in these playoffs. It's really going to be from now here on out. You haven't seen some of the arms because obviously when those starters are going so well in the first couple of games, and the way that playoff baseball runs those back-to-back-to-back days, but it's also just the same as a 3-game weekend, right? I mean, they basically played the same number of games as they would have 3 days in a row in a normal regular season series. They have the opportunity to get their starters back up so they have, their number 1 starting for the first game versus Cal Poly. And, hey, as long as they just keep this up, now the question is, will they keep this up, DK? Because you talk about the inconsistencies down the stretch of the season. A lot of that had to do with the starting pitching giving up runs early in those games when they lost 5 out of 6. So you just got to keep the zeros on the board early in games. Give your bats a chance to get the win.
Disappointment, obviously, on Sunday when the Wildcats found out that they were not going to be a host. There was some thoughts that maybe they had played their way into a hosting situation, having won the Big 12, but none of the Big 12 teams are hosting. 16 regionals total, and the Big 12 left out of that mix. Obviously, there are teams on the west side of the planet that are hosting in Oregon and Oregon State, and as well as UCLA. Oregon and UCLA out of the Big 10. They basically finished tied for first in the Big 10 this year, although Nebraska won the tournament, so they got the automatic bid. But both those teams going over from the Pac-12 defectors and doing pretty well over in the Big 10 and earning host spots for that conference. Interesting there that you have what would have been in the past, and we can dive into this a little bit later as well. 3, when was it? 3, if we were in the olden days, 3 Pac-12 teams hosting. Does that ever happen? Did that ever happen? When was the last time that ever happened? And now 2 of those teams go to the Big 10, and all of a sudden they're that good enough that they can host NCAA.
It seems like the Beavers hosted fairly consistently.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can't remember the last time the Bruins. Maybe I'm just misremembering. But DK, when half of the field is SEC hosts, right?
Yeah,
that's what we're really talking about here. 8 teams from the SEC are hosting regionals. So, yeah, I mean, I think
they got 13, I think, total in. Which kind of matches what that number's been, 13, 14 in a lot of the sports.
Yeah.
Men's basketball, softball.
I think it's tough when you don't have multiple teams. I mean, ASU, Arizona, obviously, West Virginia. There's teams that should potentially have hosted from the Big 12, but there's a lot of cannibalism, right? This is like what we saw in the Pac. Like, there's a lot of teams. Those teams, if you look at their net rankings and RPI rankings throughout the season, would climb as high as 16 or so, which is a host, and then they would get beat up by another team in the Big 12. So not consistently having 1 or 2 teams in the top 10 that you can see, right? You have those highly ranked teams. Maybe the opponent that Arizona faces next week just beat up on that top 5 ranked at net ranking team. They bring a much higher clout into the Arizona series. Arizona climbs as a result. When the SEC has 8 out of the top 10 teams in the country, DK, there's not a lot of room, much like we saw with the men's basketball side for Arizona men's basketball the last 5 or 6 years in the Pac. There just weren't high net ranking teams that you could see late in the season that would bump up in the view of the committee in order to get you a host. It's just a matter of starting the season better, right? I mean, if you really want to break down why Arizona probably didn't host, they started 1-5, was it? And they played quite a few. They played, Tennessee early. I think it was. They played some really good quality teams early in the season. If some of those, DK, were wins, that you bring those non-conference wins. Let's see, it was Clemson and then A&M, right?
And
that they beat. But those early games, Ole Miss, Clemson, Louisville, those games early, not off on the best foot. Non-conference wins in a conference where you don't have a lot of top RBI teams, that's really what gets you the hosting duties, right?
520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. Why aren't the Wildcats hosting? We'll hear from Chip Hale. He'll tell you about his thoughts on that, as well as the road ahead for the Arizona Wildcats. We had a chance to catch up with Chip yesterday after the announcement of the bracket over at High Corbett Field. We'll hear his conversation with the media coming up next. Cricket Right Now, getting you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and your weather.
From the AutoNation Honda and BMW of Tucson Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic. Collisions Grant Road east of I-10 at Fairview. Some westbound slowing on Grant at Fairview. Benson Highway in Alvernon. Aviation Parkway in Keno. Really bad collision occurred in Sahuarita at La Cañada and El Toro. 66 the overnight low, 99 through the week with a chance of showers on Sunday. 96 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Arizona Lottery. When you play the Arizona Lottery,